So I'm sitting here in Athens, and this is the last day of my trip, and I've been here for 5 weeks and I've had an amazing time. Where I'm going with this video is I used to be very stressed about going on holidays and losing my routine, my training routine, my nutrition, and I was really conscious about getting out of shape, not being as lean as possible, not being as muscular, and also maintaining my strength. And it used to be a big stressor. But this trip, I've ultimately forgotten about all those kind of things and really enjoyed the trip, ate whatever I want. Obviously I trained as well because I like training, but I want to go through something that I've let go, and maybe you are going through this, especially if you're in your 20s. I'm now in my 30s, a decade older, and I used to stress a lot about this when I was in my 20s. So let me tell you a story. Back when I was in my early 20s, which was a good decade ago, I went on a trip with my 2 other friends, which I've known since I was a kid, and we were doing a month. We planned a month, but ultimately we overstayed and we went for 3 months. And this time, it was my first time going away with friends. So it was a very exciting time, but what was ultimately holding me back and stressing me out was my routine. Am I gonna maintain my body fat levels, my muscle mass, my strength levels, all those kind of things? Because back then I was really into the bodybuilding type culture back then, and also I was competing in powerlifting, and I really wanted to maintain my numbers no matter where I was, which was crazy to think, because most people associate holidays with letting go of everything. And I think if you're in the fitness world, it's hard to let go of these things. It's almost like stepping on dog poo. Actually, that's a very bad analogy, but it's almost like peeing your pants in the ocean. Like, I remember when I first went surfing, I had a wetsuit on, and they said, if you need to go, just go in the ocean. And I'm like, okay, sure, easy enough. But when it came time to pee, and you're standing there in the ocean or floating there in the ocean, to pee was actually quite hard, because your programming, the programming you've gone throughout the how many years you're alive to not pee your pants is so strong that you can't even pee at will. And once you let go, it's really satisfying, obviously. But that just shows how your programming can be quite a burden when it comes to stuff like holidays. And for me, it was a big burden. So when I went on this trip, this backpacking trip, it was to Asia, so Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, and a couple of other countries that we added in there impromptu. And I was stressing about whether there's going to be gyms there, am I going to get enough protein, also maybe overeating and increasing my body fat levels, because I had an identity at that time. My identity was the physique, also my strength levels as a powerlifter, and yeah, just everyone knew me as the guy that was always in the gym. So I had to kind of keep that up for some reason. In my head, I was working out ways where I could do even body weight workouts if there were no gyms. I was researching what kind of foods the Vietnamese ate, see if they had enough protein. It was really, when I look back at it, a stressful time, even though it should have been a very exciting and adventurous time, going out with your mates overseas for an adventure. Yeah, when we got to some of those countries, there were no Google Maps to tell you where the gyms are. So I had to ask locals in English, which they didn't really speak, where the gyms were, and they'll kind of point it out on the maps, and you'd go there. Yeah, you do a workout with these weights where it could be random kilograms. Obviously, these days, gyms in Asia are plentiful, with gym culture just exploding over the last 10 years. But back then, I had to let go of working out every day. I had to let go of eating at certain times, and most of all, I had to accept that my physique, my strength levels, everything I've worked for is going to be diminishing as the trip goes on. I want to fast forward to in the middle of the trip, where it was about 2 weeks since I even went to the gym. So I started lifting the bed frames to do like a makeshift deadlift. I started doing some bodyweight exercises, manipulating angles to make it super hard. I was doing chin-ups on door frames, you know, you name it. And I was desperate. I was so desperate for the gym. It was almost like an obsession, very unhealthy obsession to try and maintain a certain look. In the end, we traveled for 3 months, and my body changed, you know, from going from higher body fat levels to absolutely zero body fat levels from food poisoning, and then coming back home and I looked like I almost didn't work out. As crazy as it seems, you work out for that many years, and to come home after 3 months losing all your progress. When you are in that situation and you've gone through your trip, you realize, okay, that wasn't so bad, I can just work this back. It really took me 10 years to figure out that it really doesn't matter. You should have that mindset of enjoying your holiday before you even go. So over the last couple of years, I had a trip to Japan, and now I've got a trip just finishing up in Europe. I've completely let go, and it makes the trip much more enjoyable, and it also makes it more motivating to go back home and get back to a certain level of fitness, or you know, a certain physique. It's not that bad, honestly. It's quite liberating. You're freeing yourself from this fixed identity of a certain shape or a certain strength level or whatever you have in your mind, and you really get to enjoy it. Like, it's amazing how quickly the body can change. So if you're trying to hang on to those last bits of hope of staying lean on your holiday or staying a certain shape, you're not going to do it. Most of the time, you're going to be a bit more out of shape. No matter what those fitness influencers tell you, most people are not going to be able to keep the shape, especially if you're changing your routine, especially if you're training 5 days a week now to 1 or 2 times a week. It's just not going to be feasible. And if you're eating a strict diet in the first place, and now you're eating all these other foods that you normally don't have in your diet, your body fat's going to go up. But the good news is, your body doesn't change that quickly. If you're only going on a 2-week trip, most of the time it's going to have the same shape in terms of muscle mass, because muscle mass takes a couple of weeks to actually deflate, and strength levels, same thing. If you're going for 2 months, however, you know, anything over a month, yes, you're going to rapidly degrade from there. It can all be made back. You can always get back to where you were before. In Japan, I went for 4 weeks and I gained, I think, 10 kilos. So from 72 kilos all the way to like 82 kilos. And I was completely different to what I was when I first arrived there, which was lean, maybe sub 10% body fat. I'll put in the put picture up right now, and you can see where I was at. And I turned into someone who was well over 15% body fat even. And to get back down to that shape, it took me a good two months. So you eventually get back there. And to get back down to that shape, I wasn't really trying either. So if you put some more effort into it, you can really reverse it in the same amount of time that you were there on your holiday. And this time, finishing up in Europe, Italy, so much pasta, so much bread, so many carby things, so many food items that fitness people usually abstain from. And it wasn't that hard either, because I had that mentality of, you know, I'm just going to enjoy this trip. Most of the meals in Italy have barely any protein. You eat a pasta, there's sprinkles of bacon on there. You eat a pizza, there's like a thin slice of salami on there. You're not hitting your protein targets for sure, unless you go out of your way to buy a steak or something that's really dense in protein, which you have to pay an arm and a leg for. You're not going to get your protein fix most of the time. and I was at peace with that. Moving to Greece though, my last leg, which is now, there was a lot more meat, but also meat compounding with all the other things that Greece has to offer. You're going to put on body fat. So on this trip, I put on 6 kilos, most of the body fat. I'm sure I've lost some muscle mass, but I don't care. I've completely let go of that because get a bit more wise in your years. Once you let go of those things, you start to enjoy life a lot more. And especially for me, I'm enjoying holidays a lot more. You know, I don't have to keep to a schedule of my normal routine. I can go train at a gym whenever I want, and the stress of keeping fit is not there anymore. And just my final points is, even though you're doing a lot of walking, even though you're being quite active, your body is just going to put on body fat because you're eating way too much. Usually you're eating way too much, but just let it happen. I'm going to do a little physique update in about a month's time, and you'll see the transformation, you'll see the differences. So I'll put up the starting point in another video. But yeah, just really get the message out there is just have fun. If there's a gym, go there. Do the gym because you like it, not because you have to. And people don't care, you know. One of the other things was, oh, I'm going to be at the beach. I'm going to be at a certain event where I have to show my physique. And I think for a lot of fitness people, it's very important that their physique is in top notch at those events. But most of the time, people don't care. They don't even look at you. Even if you got the best physique, most of the time they're gonna have a little glance and that's it. They're not gonna acknowledge you that you have, you know, 6% body fat, and vice versa. They're not gonna come up to you and say, oh, you've got a belly. And yeah, this trip, I've gone on a boat trip, I've gone, you know, topless with a bit more body fat. Like, you'll see in the next video, my abs completely almost disappeared. And at the end of the day, I look like I don't even train. I got this big bloated belly. So yeah, just let go, guys. When you're on your holiday, just enjoy it and just let things happen, because when you come back, you realize it's not that bad at all and you can build up again, which is the fun part. All right, that's it. See you guys on the next one.